Hello guys, Ryan Ho back with another video. Today I want to talk about how to choose the perfect mouse. So I'm going to walk you through how I got from my Logitech G703 all the way to my DeathAdder V3 Pro currently, and kind of the decision-making process that I use to kind of evaluate each of these mouses, and hopefully that helps you kind of choose the perfect mouse for yourself as well. And as always, please like and subscribe down below. Helps my videos out. All right, so let's talk about how I got from the Logitech G403 to the DeathAdder V3 Pro. So the Logitech G403 was my first mouse, right? And I essentially went to the local store, the Best Buy, and basically tried on every mouse like this. And essentially, I was trying to figure out how the clicks were and how they kind of felt on my hand, as well as how the shape of the mouse was in my hand. And I quickly found out that I preferred the Logitech one over the other ones because of, I guess it's the ergo design. This is obviously made for right-handers, and it just felt very comfortable to me. And then I actually kind of narrowed it down between this mouse and the DeathAdder mouse. But I ended up picking the Logitech G403 because I just like the clicks better. The clicks were just a little bit more consistent, a little bit faster at spamming versus the ones on the DeathAdder just felt a little heavy and a little bit more travel time. And so I ended up picking the Logitech, as well as it's actually even lighter. And I actually tried them recently, and my opinion is kind of the same still. Like the DeathAdder is just a little bit too heavy compared to the Logitech, but they're both very similar, honestly. But I basically used this mouse for about 3.5 to 4 years. And then I've eventually found that having a cable was really, really annoying, because if you don't have a big desk, your cable kind of gets caught onto everything around, and there's a kind of a drag with the cable depending on where it's facing. So that actually changes how your mouse moves and kind of how much force you need to apply. And because of that, I just found it very annoying to be consistent with this mouse with a small desk. And I didn't really want like a bungee cable because it just wouldn't fit on my desk because it was really small. So eventually I wanted to go to a wireless mouse, and the Logitech G Pro wireless right here was basically like the one that was proven in Overwatch. Basically, I think that before the mouse was even released, the Overwatch pros basically won the tournament using this mouse. And I was like, if they could win a tournament with this mouse, it has to be really good wireless performance. And it definitely does. And I actually used this mouse for 4 years, and I just recently switched off of it. So I use this mouse for a very, very long time. And honestly, having no wire is the first thing. Like, if you're still using a wired mouse, it's fine, I guess. But wireless mouses are like way better, and there's almost no reason not to use one now, in my opinion. And the second thing is, this is actually a little bit smaller mouse, and I actually didn't like that at first because I was used to the size of the G403. Like, you can see that it's just overall taller and bigger than this mouse. And, it just felt better in my hand. But, over time, I got used to the smaller size of the Logitech. It was like small, but like I could still fit my hand over it. But then the other thing that I noticed about this mouse was actually the ambidextrous design. I was kind of confused. I was like, why would they ever do that type of design, in my opinion? Because, for right-handers, it just makes more sense to go with a normal ergo design. But they wanted this mouse to fit as many people as possible. So, the ambidextrous design helps left-handers, right-handers. You can even put your own buttons here as well. And so that's the reason why I went to the shape. Honestly, I used it for a while and I got used to the shape. After 4 years, actually, I tried to clean my feet and actually ended up messing up my feet. So then I actually replaced them with these Tiger Ice skates that actually skate a lot faster than the original skates as well. So at this point, I've been using this mouse for a very long time. And actually after about 2 years of using this mouse, I kind of saw that Razer was making a similar mouse, also ambidextrous, but a different shape. Now the shape was actually a lot smaller than the G Pro wireless. And after trying this mouse, I really didn't like the shape of this mouse actually. And I used it for, I think about a month, and I actually lost ring in Valorant from it. And I really just ended up not using it because I just didn't perform well, and the shape was just a little too small for me. It wasn't as comfortable as the Logitech. And if you can tell, like, I went from a huge mouse like this into something this small. Like, it's kind of crazy. Like, it just didn't work out for me at all. And I tried this mouse recently again, And my wrist just kind of hurts from using it because it's just so small and there's just nowhere to like rest my hand. Like I'm holding it and I'm just not really a fan of the shape. But the buttons and kind of the feet it come with were kind of an improvement, honestly, over the Logitech in the sense of like they come with the what they call version PTFE, but they're basically the white feet that glide a lot faster than the kind of generic black feet you got from the cheaper mouses. And then obviously the kind of optical switches is something I want to try on this mouse as well because they kind of eliminate double click. Now I never had a double click issue with my previous mouse, but those are all the things that I wanted to try when it came to this mouse. But I ended up not liking it and just sticking with the G Pro wireless. So recently I discovered that this mouse was released way later than everybody else because I haven't been really looking at mouses, but the Logitech kind of never made a super light or revision of the Logitech G403. They did make a wireless version of this mouse, which they basically called the Logitech G703, and it's just the same. Like it's like about, I think it's like 100 grams, so it's pretty heavy. They just never updated it with the super light edition with any kind of the new technologies at all. And so I was never really interested in buying the wireless version of that when I already had this mouse. But now that I saw the kind of Razer Death Adder V3 Pro, it really does actually remind me of the same shape as the G403. Obviously, it's a little bit smaller in a sense, not as big, which is fine with me. It still fits really well in my hand. And that ergo shape was really something that I was kind of missing from, using this mouse for so long. Like, I just really like how comfortable the ergo shape is on this mouse. But even the actual technology improvements on this mouse is actually very impressive too. This mouse obviously comes with the new kind of the version PTF feet, which glide a lot faster, right? And then the other thing that this mouse has is 4,000 hertz dongle, and it has the newest sensor and technology. And the clicks are actually also optical with their newer kind of optical V3 switches, they call it basically. And the side buttons are also really nice. Like the thing I actually noticed about this mouse is one, the side buttons are a lot better than my Logitech buttons. They're just a little mushy, which is fine. The actual click, honestly, like I still kind of like the Logitech ones still. They just feel a little bit more spammable, but like honestly, I can't really complain too much about it. But overall, this was kind of like an upgrade that I wanted. But the key thing that I found was really interesting about this mouse is that the responsiveness of the 4,000 hertz, but also just the actual like motion latency on it is also lower, because I actually used this for quite a while and then I switched back to the Viper Ultimate just to try it out before I did these reviews again. I found that I could actually feel how slow the Viper Ultimate felt in relation to the Death Adder V3 Pro, which I thought was kind of crazy. Like, obviously the 4,000 polling rate is already one improvement, but even at the same polling rate, this thing has slightly less lag when you move your hand, and when you see on the screen, it actually is better too than the Viper Ultimate. So overall, it was actually a very big improvement in my opinion in helping you kind of aim better, because that faster kind of lower latency really helps you like micro adjust your aim when you kind of over aim when you're flicking and stuff like that. And I found it very useful and really good to have on this mouse. So another point I want to make is that obviously for the shape, you want something that actually fits in your hand. A lot of these like ambidextrous smaller mouses, I don't know, they're not very comfortable for me personally. And I probably wouldn't recommend these be your first mouse to try if that's what you're looking for. I think the G Pro Wireless is a pretty good mouse to try at first if you want something that will most likely fit your hand. But if you want something to be ultra comfortable in your right-hander, I definitely recommend trying the Death Adder V3 Pro. I feel like this shape is kind of reminiscent in the sense of like it's a little bit smaller than like the old Death Adders of the old. So it won't be as big and chonky. It won't be as heavy either. But I feel like it will fit a lot of hands better too for the Death Adder V3 Pro. And I feel like this is really a good mouse in the sense of just ergonomics and even the size. I feel like the size just makes a lot more sense, because like even this mouse still to this day feels slightly small to me. And this mouse just feels kind of perfect, honestly. All right, so the last thing I want to talk about is kind of mouse weight. It's not something that I thought I would care that much about, but it's something interesting too, where, my first wired mouse was about 84 grams, which is, not too bad with the cable. I mean, if you put the whole entire cable on it, it's probably a little heavier. And then the G Pro Wireless was really not that much lighter. It's obviously a lot smaller feeling, but the weight is about the same at 81. And then moving on to the Viper Ultimate, this weight was just slightly lighter, but it wasn't really noticeable in my opinion. It's like 76 grams, but I really didn't notice much of a difference either coming from the G Pro Wireless. And then this mouse is like, you know, in the super light kind of category. Now, obviously there's more mouse that weigh lighter than this, but at 63 grams, I can actually feel the difference of, you know, about 18 grams from the Logitech. Like the first thing I thought about when I held this mouse in my hand, it's like it almost felt like a really light, like cheap toy. Yeah, I'm not saying like it is like that, but that's what it felt like because it was so light. I was actually confused how it could be so light in my hand. And then after a while using this mouse, then going back to this, I'm like, dang, this mouse actually now feels heavy. So I think it's really just relative to what you're used to. Like when I was actually testing these mice out again, I was using this for a while and then I switched back to this mouse. I was like, wow, this is really light again. So, you know, the weight, I feel like you just get used to it, but it is actually interesting that the weight does affect the glide on the mouse pad. The lighter mouse tend to glide faster too. So that's something to kind of notice because the more weight means more friction. So yeah, that's kind of another thing I noticed too. Lighter mouse do kind of move faster. In conclusion, you know, the Death Adder V3 Pro is technologically a lot better than my first mouse. It's lighter, it's more responsive, it's wireless, it has better feet, the buttons feel better. Also a lot more expensive than my first mouse, but all that aside, it really is a kind of a leap forward in my opinion, and I really enjoy using this one now. Obviously, there's tons of mice on the market, but for me, the Death Adder V3 Pro is going to be my main mouse for now. And I think it is my perfect mouse. Now, if Logitech releases the G703 Super Light, you know, I might be interested in testing that out. But until then, I don't know when that's going to happen because they haven't released a new version of the Logitech Super Light. So, you know, I'm probably gonna be waiting for a long time for the competitor to come out from Logitech. So in the meantime, I'm going to be using this one. And even if they come out with something newer, it might just be the same specs as the Death Adder. Maybe the shape's a little different, but we will have to see. Anyways, if you guys found this video helpful, please like and subscribe down below. Helps my videos out. And I'll see you guys next time. Bye-bye.